So, burnout's a gift from God to tell you that you are overextended what I've made you for. And I want you to come rest with me. Right. So that is just so important. But the other thing is, it's an invitation to say, are there places in my life, if I look at the maturity model, the maturity scale, if I look at those things, are there places in my life that I need to move forward in, not just solve the burnout problem, but actually move forward? It's going to require that you sit with God and sit with your community for those things that you can't do it by yourself. And you can get started by yourself, but you can't finish unless you're in community.
So, one of the things that I've noticed in my own life is how passionate I can get about my life and the purposes of my life. And as I'm networking with other professionals, I'm noticing that same passion coming out in their lives. And it's so wonderful to connect and collaborate. And so if you're new here, I'm Monica with CFT Institute, where we train therapists, counselors, and spiritual leaders in a framework approach that combines neuroscience with faith. And today I am in the recording studio with David Carolan, and David and I got connected a couple months ago and had a synergistic, combustible conversation where our mutual passions came alive. And I thought, man, I gotta get connected to this guy and hear more about what he's got going on. And so, David, you have a lot of things going on. And so I'd love to be able to share your insights, your wisdom, your history with the life model and how you've used it professionally and personally in your life with our audience today. So welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's wonderful, David. You've spent 30 years in executive leadership and finance, and now you're pivoted to doing a joy-centered ministry and coaching. Can you tell us a little bit about your past, your history, and what led you to this change of venue?
Well, I would say probably one of the most boring and low joy professions is to be in accounting and finance, right? So I had lots of practice of doing that, and just how I grew up, intensity, right? Intensity of life and excellence in all that I did. That joy was not a component that was necessary to succeed. But I found out later in life, after doing a lot of startups and a couple of public companies that I helped launch, and just being intense in many different things, that my joy level was extremely, extremely low. Even though I had some knowledge about God, I actually met the Lord when I was in my mid 30s, right? And just experienced a lot of joy. But then it's amazing how life could take the joy away that you have. And so I really wanted that mountaintop experience back. And I'll talk more about that today if you give me a chance. But, to get that mountaintop experience back when I met the Lord, how do you keep that joy? So for several years in my mid to late 30s, and then into my 40s, I was trying to figure out what's this joy thing about? And that journey totally changed how I practice my faith, how I interact with people, and even my career. It changed everything for me. So.
Mm, mm. That's so exciting. You go from this left brain profession to this creative, energetic, relational profession. I was just on the call with my accountant today, and here it is. It's
Okay.
April 10th. You know what time of year it is here
Yep.
in the United States, right? And it's just they're under the gun and it's really intense, but it's very left brain, very you're in your office, you're crunching numbers, to working with people and accessing that joy part of the brain. So David, tell us about your life model journey. How did you first come across the life model, and how did it connect with what you were already doing? And then how are you using it today in all of the things that you have your hands in?
Yeah. So I would say that for even growing up as a young person, I was a student of the Bible and knew a lot of the tenets of the faith and just had never experienced meeting Jesus personally and having a real true conversion and transformation of my life in my mid 30s. And so I was looking for, ways to experience the Lord more. And I ran across the book, Jim's first book, Joy Starts Here. Right. And I read that book and I go, this is probably what I really need, but I need someone to help me, right, to do this. So at that time, Jim had created a network of counselors and therapists that were practicing the life model. And I looked for someone in Austin where I was living that could sit with me and talk with me. And there was only one person that was on the list in Austin at that time, so many years ago. And I I called her up and talked to her, and I said, how much do you charge? I know you're a therapist. She goes, I'm not a therapist. And I go, "Oh, well, you're the only person listed. I still would like to talk to you about what I just read. Could we
Mhm.
do that together?" And she said, "Sure. Where do you live?" And, I told her where I lived, and she lived like 200 yards from me. Right? And it was I could probably walk to her house faster than I could drive. And so she actually became like my spiritual mother. She's,
Mm,
now in her late 80s, 90 actually. And she actually led me through the life model journey over a
mm,
series of years, including healing and deliverance and many other things. And then I was introduced to Marcus Warner, and I realized that, man, this is just the best uh, configuration of what the Christian life and transformation ought to look like. And I had
mhm,
some other experiences with the intimacy model of therapy in Austin, which I would say is on par with
mm,
the life model. And so I try to
mm,
blend those two together. But anyway, as the years rolled by and I became more joyful, I was able to start a ministry to try to help people struggling with problems in Central Texas and worked with a lot of therapists. And finally, I said, enough. I'm going to go get a master's in counseling and become a therapist. And I had to short circuit that briefly. And then I finally finished my doctorate. And all my research was on joy and spiritual transformation. And I was really kind of Jim and Marcus to be like informal advisors to me as I did that research and work. So that's the long
yeah,
story, but it's an exciting story because it's very personal for me, but
mhm.
also very professional for me. I really have a hard time, distinguishing the two
Separating the 2.
sometimes. Yeah.
Exactly. Let me give a couple follow-up questions. I know that you and I have talked about this, but just for everybody listening, you're doing a pastoral counseling ministry, right? And that's you.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things you do. And it's called New Ground Ministries, correct? Is there a website? And can are you open to new clients? Or can people contact you?
Yeah.
How does this work?
Yeah. So I have like, I call it like my uh, ministry consulting business. And it's actually Mental Hope Centers is the website. And so what we do at that website is we look for people that want to transform their practice in their communities, right? So both.
Mhm,
Our model is to get churches and lay led counselors involved with the professional licensed the therapeutic community and to try to give a holistic approach to help communities. So New Ground Ministries is one of those clients of mine that I helped create a model for the city of Lockhart, Texas, so that they could provide both professional and lay led care. And so some of that training
mm,
was life model work and some was some other work. And they just try to build up a group of caregivers in the community under the
mm.
underwriting of churches so that everyone could receive some type of care from
So
base.
New Ground Ministries is just one ministry
Yeah.
that is under the umbrella of say it's mental health.
Yeah. Mental Hope Centers.
Oh, I love that. Mentalhopecenters.com.
Yeah, .org. Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
mentalhopecenters.org. Yeah.
Okay.
So, if someone were interested in saying, "I'd like to do more, I'm already doing things, but I'd like to do more," then
Yes.
we'd be happy to come alongside and do some
Mhm.
consulting. Every project is different because every community is different. And
Right.
the
So what
and
I
the
hear you saying is you don't work as much one-on-one with individuals as much as you work with leaders who have a mission and a heart for their organization in their city. And
Yeah,
then you come alongside them and help them create a network or an agency or a program or something like this in their
that's
community.
correct. I've got about 15 years of doing this in Central Texas and Austin with, uh, a pretty large group of licensed therapists, Christian therapists, and then lay-led counselors, pastoral counselors, and pastors. So I have organize the army to take the hill kinda thing is what
So you're a networker. Like
I
you
am.
you know the people, and so if anybody gets on your website and tries to contact you or somebody on your team, you're going to get them connected to the right people who
I
can
am.
help.
I mean, I'd turn around and connect them with you if they needed that kind of training, right?
That's
So,
right. I've noticed that since I
yeah,
met you. They
yeah,
say David sent me. I'm like,
yeah.
wow, this
That's
guy, he's on it.
yeah. So, I've over the years, I've kind of built up, the key ministries and the key writings of different people, including Marcus Warner at Deeper Walk, and of course Jim Wilder and the Life Model, and a few others. And so, as I'm really a consummate researcher and reorganizer of people's information, and then I really enjoy. I still do coaching, right, and I do caregiving, but I don't do it as much as I used to, but I would put together, on the fly coaching programs for people that I would pull different things together and really ask Holy Spirit, like, what do these people really need? And then what do you not want them to miss?
Okay.
And so that's kind of my model that
Okay.
I've done.
So it's kind
I don't know if networking is a spiritual gift or listed, but God gave me that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those spiritual gifts. It's an anointing you have really to it feels apostolic, right? There's a
Mm.
sense of like, let's bring the church together, let's bring the church together in unity and let's help people connect. And so what I hear you saying is way back you were connected to some of the main life model leaders, whether it's Dr. Wilder or Marcus Warner, and you stay connected, but that those connections were really helpful in your own education and your doctorate. And how could someone access your doctoral work? Is that
Yeah.
online
Yeah.
anywhere?
Yeah. So the best way to like figure out more about what I found in research, if you just go to joyrestart.com,
Hmm.
um, if I would say this, that there's like one thing that people could do. I mean, I'd love for them to contact me, but if they'll go to joyrestart.com and go take any of the assessments that I built based on my doctoral work and in conjunction with the ministries that we're so familiar with the
Hmm.
life model and deeper walk.
Hmm.
Forgiveness is a big thing. I'd love to talk about forgiveness. The fear of the Lord is a big thing that needs to be brought forward and not make people afraid of the fear of the Lord. Right? So I have these assessments to help people get started, and
Okay.
they're free to use if you're a therapist, and they're free, individually, and that's the best way for people to get started, to get to know me. You can experience some of the work that I've done, and then if you wanna talk further, we can. So,
Okay, wonderful. So joyrestart.com is kind of the website that hosts the doctoral information,
yeah,
but it's what's birthed out of your doctorate. And
yeah.
what was the title of your doctorate? What was it called? Joy Restart? What was the
It was,
focus?
joy and spiritual transformation in the modern age.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah.
wonderful. Wonderful. And so that is the sole purpose of that website.
Yeah, it is. It's really just a beginning point, for people to
Mhm.
get started. I always say that, God's always at work to reveal stuff to us. Part of that is revealing who we are, which can be really frightening. That's why people do tax extensions, by the way. which a lot of people will file extensions on the 15th because they just want to kick the can. So I don't want people kicking the can down the road. I want them to go dig in
Mhm,
about who you are, but I
mhm,
also want that to be an opportunity for God to reveal who he
mhm.
is to you. And so that's what we're interested in at Joy Restart. And we have a lot of different ways we can help you after you take those assessments.
Now, I don't know how you keep up with all the things you have going on. I mean, you've got, mentalhopecenters.org and all these ministries that you have helped get started. And then you've got Joy Restart. And you also have this new thing, Generous Java, right? So why don't you talk a little bit about Generous Java? I know I have
Ah,
been a recipient of some Generous Java, and I was just telling you how amazing the coffee is. But tell us a little bit about how that got started and what the
yeah.
purpose of that organization is and how people can access.
Yeah. So I always think about generosity and joy just like going together. Like, how could you be a joyful person and then not be a generous person? It just doesn't make sense. It's just the
Mhm,
thing about joy, it's like an emotion that really empowers you. And it also, you feel like almost invincibility. And that's needed if someone's asking you that they need something. Like, giving out of your abundance or giving out of your need, being able
mhm,
to do both of those things joy is going to have to be there. I
mhm,
think with joy, generosity really counts, right? Just like any kind of love that's expressed, if it's done with joy, it's so sincere.
mhm,
So
mhm,
I built a generous Java as kind of a hook to get people to try good coffee, have good conversations, and then teach them about joy and teach them about generosity. So if you get coffee from us, it's super inexpensive on purpose. We want to be generous to the buyer of our coffee, but we'll start sending you information about being a generous person. And then on top of that, in Central Texas, we have a bunch of ministries that need support. So if people want to support those ministries directly,
mhm.
we help connect them to do
Mm.
that.
So it's again, it's a networking
Yeah.
organization, right?
Yeah.
And it's just a kind of like something that you came up with. You're good at like coming up with ideas, implementing them, and seeing it
Yeah.
take life, involving others in generosity is beautiful. I love how you're connecting these big picture concepts, forgiveness, generosity. These things are the character of Christ, and you're in it, you're doing it in real time and right before the world. So thank you, David.
Yeah,
That's
man.
really exciting.
Glad to do it. So,
Yeah.
I don't know if you wanna talk about what's happening today in the world, but, you're the interviewer,
Please,
right?
hey, this could
Would that
take a life of its own. Go for it. What?
Yeah, so, I was thinking about as I started, Generous Java, it actually started right after COVID,
Mhm,
and I was thinking about, what can we do now? People were still kind of masking and staying apart, but things were opening up. And had a real heart for the homeless. And so one of the things I thought is what would it look like if we had really great coffee to give to the homeless in Central Texas? And
uh-huh,
so for a year, we gave away about 5,000 cups of coffee to to homeless each month. Right. And that was kind of the rebirth of my love of coffee and generosity. And I already had a lot of experience with coffee over 35 years. So anyway, but that has morphed into now and part of my writing of my dissertation was about how bad was COVID to induce isolation,
mhm,
aloneness,
mhm,
loneliness problems, and fear problems. So I wrote a lot about that in my work, and now I'm probably taking a page from that work and
mhm,
applying it to AI, right? Because
mhm,
AI has almost very similar outcomes that could happen, which would be more aloneness, more fear,
mhm.
more dependency, right? You could be dependent on AI. So I'm in the middle of working on extending my doctorate work and adding to it, what's the effect of the next thing in life that would make you low joy, low fear, I mean, high fear, and, being separated, which is
Mhm.
just the opposite of what the life model's about. The life model's about multi-generation community, joyfulness, and experiencing God in a
Mhm.
deep way. So
Mhm.
that's kind
Mhm.
of what I'm another thing that I'm working on is how to comport the value of AI against how negative it could be in
Mhm.
our world. So,
Mhm. What I'm noticing in talking with you is you do bring an element of wisdom, right? You're able to pull together these big picture concepts, and you're speaking out of a synthesis of the information, but you're speaking wisdom. You're speaking the wisdom that's come from years of experience and study and observation of
yep,
what's going on in the world, what's going on with our lives, and like how can we access the life model concepts, the joy concepts, and apply them to what's happening. Ready or not, here we go, right?
yeah,
With AI, it's like when the internet came on board, right, in the 80s and 90s or whenever that was, right? It was like, hey, this isn't going anywhere. This is here. How are we going to adjust ourselves
yep,
to stay people of character, but also grow in who we are as individuals, and how we can be Jesus to the world. So
that's
that's really what I'm hearing from you today, and I'm really thankful for what your study, what you've done, and the ministries that you have going on. It's quite a bit. So I think my question is, what's next? Like, you've started these organizations. Where are you in the process with all of them? Do you have anything else on the docket?
mm.
Tell us about it.
Yeah. I'll tell you about the future things, but I want to pick up on how significant the life model maturity assessment that we have. It's really a reflection of Jim and Marcus's work over the years. So I've got that up online as as something you could take. Maturity, joy and maturity together matter for therapists, for every person. Um, you know, it's probably one of the most important things to be honest with ourselves about where we are in our maturity level, and then and being willing with great happiness to go address any shortcomings that we have in our maturity. And
Yes.
so that is like a key thing for me. Addressing the issues of fear. John Bevere's work on the All of God is probably one of the finest books I read on fear. I took a 5 month sabbatical and then went to Oxford and studied. And
Mm,
it came out of that is that we have to get the fear of the Lord properly in place amongst us. And it's really a beautiful gift from God just to be able to fear Him rightly, right? And so that's another thing. And then I am working on some technology to help people that have unfortunately unlearned how to learn. And so no one can sit for hours and study anymore or take up
mhm,
time to journal properly, perhaps, or even find out what to go do with what they've learned, right? So I'm so interested in little snippets of learning that you could get some journaling done and then find out what to go do today. So I'm actually building an app that takes some old um, theological works, including the Ten Commandments,
mhm,
um, how to make wise decisions, and how to pray. So those are the first three versions of that. So we're in the middle of building that, and it'll be an app that you could look at for 5 minutes a day and actually take action on what you've learned. It's a replacement for the many emails that I get in my inbox each day, newsletters from old theologians that, have words of wisdom. So I'm hoping that the younger generation who don't have a good attention span could actually pick this up. And,
Mhm.
there's such a revival going on amongst the Gen Zers, and I don't want them to miss the richness of God's word at the
Mhm.
same time. So that's what I'm working on. So
Wow. Of course you're doing an app.
yeah,
Right?
I
Of
love
course.
technology. I mean, I love
That's
people
right.
more than technology, but barely, right? So,
Yeah.
uh,
So you're keeping on the cutting edge of a society, even as you grow in age. You're keeping up with what's going on, and an app is where it's at, right? And so I love it. It's a very creative idea, pulling in the history, the content that's already been there,
yeah,
and bringing it together with current technology so that we can access it, right? And
yeah.
so, how do you come up with these ideas?
Uh,
Just in prayer and
it is prayer and it's a gift of God, and I have a significant free time to work on what I'd like to. I would say, I would tell folks that are listening to this that there's nothing more precious than getting solitude with God. And that was a major gift in my life about 5 years ago. And then about this last year, about this time, I was in the middle of my first ever sabbatical
Mm,
after 65 years. And I took 5 months off and just spent a lot of time with the Lord. And it was really transformative. A lot of people can't afford to take that kind of time off, but
mm,
I highly recommend at least 1 week a year if you can figure it out and just be with the Lord. And that's been the richest thing. He's disciplined me greatly. I've suffered for a reason in many different ways, and it's
mhm,
been nothing but goodness from him. Nothing but goodness has come out of it. And so I
yeah,
just want to share that with people that God is good.
mhm,
He's all of his acts are righteous. His goodness endures forever. He's
mm,
beautiful, and we should be in awe of him and see him in his glory as much as we can. And he
mm,
does have the final say about our whole life. And
mhm,
so those kind of things should really draw us to him. And so he revealed a lot of those things to me during my sabbatical and just really
mhm.
invigorated me to do what I'm doing today. So,
Yeah. So I see you as a model, and we talk about with the maturity, tasks of becoming elders and
yeah.
coming into this space of giving back to the community and using our time, talent, and treasure to do so. And so I hear you putting boots on the ground with that concept, but also modeling for us what it looks like to abide in the vine, stay close to the Lord, and spend the time needed to just be with, so that these ideas can come into your mind and you can see the implementation. So what a blessing you are to the
Mm,
world and to the specific niche that we have around life model concepts, and the joy movement really is
mm,
probably what we want to call it. So
mm,
I'm so thankful, and I just want to call that out. Like, it's beautiful what you've come up with and what you are spending your time doing. And I appreciate what you said just before you told us what's next, just tagging into our audience, right? Because many of the people listening are um, helpers, right? So people who are spending time one on one or in groups, talking with and walking with others through their life journeys in terms of emotional, spiritual healing, psychological healing. And so, what I heard you saying, and I don't know if you want to tag anything else in about that, but that you're saying the most important thing for us as helpers is knowing where we are on our maturity journey and grabbing a hold of what the next step may be. And
mm.
the life model maturity charts, checklists are super helpful to
Yeah.
find out where we are. And I hear you saying that on your Joy Restart website, you have given access to those charts and checklists.
Yeah, it's all digitized, and you'll get a great big report about yourself. Hopefully, you won't throw it away. Actually, just look at it and use it. But
Right.
I would ask. First of all, I'd say thank you, therapist community, because I don't know how you do it. It's
Mhm.
super easy to get burned out, right? The most sessions I ever did in a day is four, and but I don't even know how I did four. I know that some of you might be doing six or seven, right?
Mhm.
So, burnout's a gift from God to tell you that you are overextended what I've made you for,
Mhm.
and I want you to come rest with me, right? So that is just so important. But the other thing is, it's an invitation to say, are there places in my life, if I look at the maturity model, the maturity scale, if I look at those things, are there places in my life that I need to move forward in, not just solve the burnout problem, but actually move forward? It's going to require that you sit with God and sit with your community
Mhm.
for those things that you can't do it by yourself. And you can get started by yourself, but you can't finish unless you're in community. You won't
Mhm.
finish the work unless you're in community. So I'm
'Cause
interested in all those things.
right, the idea is we're building capacity, right? To
Yeah.
stay ourselves, our one true self, our true
Yeah.
identity, rather than becoming human doings and disconnecting from who we really are in order to get the job done, get the task done.
Yeah. That's correct. Um,
Mm.
well,
So good. I'm
yeah.
hearing you loud and clear on that. It's so good. Like how, if we're going to sit with Jesus, sit with our community and learn that it's not about what we accomplish. It's more about what's birthed out of us from that place of rest.
Yeah. I'm just reminded of The Chosen, one of the seasons, one of the episodes where Jesus worked probably 20 hours in the day healing people, and the disciples were all together. He comes in late in the evening, and he basically, "I've done enough for today. I'm going to bed." Right? "We'll deal with all this tomorrow." I would highly encourage if people could just follow Jesus in that. I'm not sure he actually did that, but I think the spirit of it is great, is that you can only do so much, and it's
Right.
enough, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I was listening to Bema podcast several years
Mhm.
ago, and when they got to the Sabbath concept, they said, "Listen, the Sabbath is about realizing that you're not God, right? Like
Mm.
that you are doing this work for the Lord, but that it's like this isn't the defining. Your work is not the defining aspect of who you are."
Yeah,
In so many words. And so it really has to do with submitting and living in rhythm and aligning with what it means to be human, that we do have limits and we're supposed to, according to life model and I think the word of God, live in these rhythms of joy and rest. So I love the work you're doing, David. What a blessing to sit with you today and to have our audience hear more from you. Um, we will, definitely be able to access the websites and all the work you're doing. So thank you so
mm,
much. What a gift to be with
thanks for
you.
having me on, and thank you for all the work you do, and therapists out there, thank you for all the work you do. I'm the beneficiary of a lot of therapy. So thank you very much.
Yes. Well, thanks for tuning in today, everyone. If you want to go deeper with the life model and the 30 core concepts, we have a full range of trainings available at cftinstitute.com, and you can start exploring for free on our Learning Hub. Remember, healing spreads when counselors live in joy, and we'll see you in the next episode.